What you heard? Yeah. What you heard? What you heard? You can hear a motherfucker.
Hey, yo, what's up, people? It's your boy Tizzle from Talk by Tizzle. I'm here with Marissa and Skinny.
Yeah.
And we switching it up a little bit today, man. We're going to do something a little bit about psychology. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, what's your credentials, Miss Marissa?
I don't have any yet. I'm currently in school. I'm about to complete my bachelor's degree. I'm on my last semester. My bachelor's degree will be in human development, which is psychology. And I'm currently enrolling for my master's program in couple and family therapy, or marriage and family therapy, for the fall of next year. So,
Okay.
Yes.
You know, it's a stigma around, like, therapy, you know.
Yeah.
In certain areas, it's like a person think, like, oh, he had therapy, he crazy or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, he about to blow his brains out next week.
That could be true.
I think the only where we got that stigma at is in minorities.
Fuck. That's the only place we
Definitely.
be at.
I'm saying is that's only where the stigma. As far as if you're not a minority, they feel like that's a must that you get it done.
Facts, man.
They just now starting to tell us like it's needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so frowned upon. Like, most people just think that they can deal with their stuff through, like, whether it's drugs or, you know, abusing themselves. And it's crazy because we always talk about this. We always talk about, like, when a lot of, like, rich people or white people, when they kids having problems, it's like, oh, they need therapy. When a lot of, like, minorities have problems, it's like they need discipline, they need prison, they need, you know, separation, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do y'all think that ever changed, though, or what?
I feel like it is changing little by little. I feel like a lot of the big changes that we're seeing are coming more from the media. And I think as the media changes how they portray mental illness and they portray people who get therapy and things like that, it trickles down into how we as a society see it. And I think it starts with us as individuals. So, like, you know, for me, I'm, you know, an Hispanic woman. And, you know, when I started going to therapy, I think I was 21 when I started therapy.
Okay.
When I first started going to therapy, I discovered it because I was going to a white church. And the white pastor suggested it to me, and I was the first person to ever suggest to me to go to therapy.
So he was like, check this out. What you thought? He thought you was crazy?
Yeah. No, so I was in a class, and they were asking, like, you know, do you have anything you have questions about? And I said, I have a lot of rage, and I don't know how to deal with my rage. Like, I feel enraged all the time. And, you know, I was at a church, so I was thinking, like, oh, they'll pray for me. And the pastor said, well, we can pray for you, but I also think that you should talk to a therapist. And I just kind of looked at him like, I can't believe he just, like, I was kind of offended. And then I realized, like, he's probably right. Like, yeah, he's probably right.
It's crazy for you to be offended. I'm quite sure they thought it was normal in there.
Right.
Like, we talk to therapists all the time.
I'm a pastor. I talk to a therapist.
Like, why do you think this?
Right. Yeah,
I think for any minority, we think of it like, oh, you being disrespectful? What you saying? I'm crazy? Or,
right.
You know what? I just thought on some crazy stuff. I thought, and this is probably a little crazy. I thought the pastor could be thinking, like, let me pass some money to the homie. He a therapist.
I mean,
it was business.
Hey,
You thought it was business?
It might have been.
I think a lot of you know how church, like, you know, how we grew up. I feel like a lot of church, not a lot, but some churches take advantage. We know that's just the way it is.
Majority.
Right? So it's like with us, if I'm selling weed, we'll say, and say you selling pills, I'm like, hey, I don't got no pills for you, but my boy do. It's the same thing. I'm not saying that that's what's going on, but when she said it,
I mean,
was
that's
thinking,
definitely
like,
a possibility.
yeah, because, like, don't they go head in hand? Like, I'm a pastor and I'm telling you to go see somebody else.
The pastor is not a therapist, though.
The pastor got the line of God, though. What the fuck?
Yeah,
or am I tripping? Pastor ain't got the line of God no more?
Yeah,
God
but
got you going to a therapist?
But see, hold on.
Said it like he got
Hold
the
on.
phone number, direct connect.
No,
like,
they say it like
hey,
that.
God, I got one
So,
down here that needs you.
This is part of the narrative, though, I think
Yeah.
that's broken, especially amongst minority groups, is that we lean a lot on the church. We lean a lot on the faith-based community, to support us, to uplift us. And that's definitely part of what I think the church is supposed to do. But I think that there are issues that are beyond the expertise of pastors and leaders. And I think, like, for me personally, I grew up in church, and my pastors tried to counsel me through my trauma and things that I had gone through, but they didn't have the knowledge and the expertise to do that. Or the time, for sure. And I was very needy. In my trauma, I was very needy. And so I think it's important to distinguish that just because a pastor can't do one-on-one therapy with you, which I think is a proper boundary, it doesn't mean that they still can't come alongside you and support you on your journey. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, since we bringing up journey, let me go ahead and hop back to our journey. All right, first, we met each other in high school. You lived in our apartments, which was very...
In our apartments.
In our apartment, yeah, those are our apartments.
Yes, I know. I'm aware.
APs, yeah, those are our apartments, right? Damn near. I should have some fucking stock in the apartment. But anyways, so you move in from San Diego.
Correct.
You move into an all-black apartment.
Correct.
What was that like?
It was definitely a culture shock. I didn't have an issue being around black people. I just want to make that really clear. But it's not like there was no black people in San Diego. But, the majority of the people in San Diego, in the area that I lived, were Hispanic. And so, you go to the grocery store and everyone's speaking Spanish. And, it's just very rare that you don't hear Spanish spoken like that. So, it was definitely a culture clash. I think one of the first experiences that I remember is... I wore a lot of blue when I first moved into the APs. I didn't know. And I was made aware very soon. I don't even think I lived there a week before somebody told me that I was not supposed to wear blue. And I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean? And to be fair, the colors in California, you have the Chargers. The Chargers are blue. And then National City, where I grew up, it was, the gangs there were blue. And so everyone just wore blue. It wasn't anything bad. But that was a big clash. I was like, what's it with blue? I don't get it. And then I learned very quickly what all that meant. Yeah, so, but, I think I just settled in,
It's crazy, now you tell me that, you want to go to school, get your degree to help people. Mm-hmm. And even back then, you were helpful. I remember, man, through a whole year of high school, you called me every day and woke me up for school. Yeah. Homework. Did you do your homework? You better have. You was I don't know.
That was a pain in the ass.
Facts. For sure. You was on my ass, especially after I got out from the trouble. And it was crazy. You was always like that, though. You know what I mean? And I always tell people, the story about graduating. I didn't think I was going to graduate or whatever because, I was in jail and going through all kind of bull crap, Mm-hmm. But somehow, I went to night school and figured it out. And when we was taking our proficiency test, and I remember you was on my ass. Man, you need to study. Of course I didn't. You study. I didn't study.
You did study with me.
Yeah, with you. But I'm talking about after I left you, that was that. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's fine.
And then we was hitting each other up. We got through it. And then when we took the test, I remember I passed it.
You did.
And
I didn't. Yep. I missed it by 1 point.
How did that feel? You didn't tutor somebody to pass the test.
It actually really, really affected me for many years. Yeah.
Many years?
It genuinely impacted my life in a very negative way for many years. And that's why I didn't go back to school right away, because I felt like I couldn't do it. I thought I was smart. Guess I'm not. And it really took a negative impact on
even
me.
Knowing that you tutor somebody to pass the test? Even knowing that...
Straight A student, though. Not even just me. She tutored people... Yeah. Bro, I wasn't the only person. Me, I think it was Cal. It was a couple of us that she used to, help us with our homework and all that.
And I even after high school, a few people hit me up after high school, asking me for help to do resumes, how to fill out job applications. I don't know. And when I look through my yearbook and stuff, the stuff people wrote, and I'm like, Wow, people really believed in me. I don't know. I was very insecure, so
What was your
it
GPA?
didn't. For me, it didn't feel that way. Like I was like, I don't know.
What was your GPA?
When I graduated, I was very low. I think it was like a 2 point something.
Yeah.
It was really low, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going through a lot at that time. Like that, my senior year of high school, it was a rough year for me. So.
But you knew you were smart. Like you, up until that
yeah.
last year, you basically
Yeah, up
held
until that
great
last
grades.
year, I had great grades. Yeah, I did. And I was in student council that year. And I mean, I was trucking along as good as I could. But I think at the end of the year, a lot of the personal things I had going on in my life kind of started to affect me. And, that's how it played out.
So like now, when you look back at how, like, grown we thought we were, we'll say, you know what I mean? The way we was living, like, me, the reason I thought I was so grown was because I was kicking it with him. So, he
Maybe
like,
you were grown.
yeah.
We got a 3-year gap. We're 3 years old.
He was kind of grown. I wouldn't say grown, but he was just older than me. But it was like, so when I was dealing with people around my age, I kind of felt like I already had been there. You know what I mean? It felt like I had already been there. And I remember you used to always tell me, like, used to be like, man, Vontae, you just got to apply yourself. You got to apply yourself, man. Like, you get too distracted. And it was like, that was the gospel. I was definitely that. I couldn't stay focused. But then it's like, with you and him, that's what controlled my focus. You know what I mean? I really didn't, whether it was music or, I don't know. He always had me on some kind of business or something as well. So it gave me the balance, man. For real. I definitely appreciate both of y'all for that shit while we here. Might as well throw that out there,
man.
For real.
You're welcome.
So, anyways, though, but as far as like with the drama, like, it was a lot of shootouts. I guess we'll cut to it. It was a lot of shootouts over there. You know what I mean? This is what it was.
It's true.
I remember you had bullet holes in your wall.
Yeah, all along the windows of our bedrooms,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So, like, now that we older, we look back, right? That had to have caused so much drama, like, and trauma. Not drama, but trauma
Yes.
in our heads. Like,
Yes.
whether it's from, like, us telling you or us recommending for you not to wear blue or whatever it was. Like,
Recommended.
I
it up,
only
man.
wear blue now. I just want you to know.
Oh, you had to get that shit out your
Yeah.
system. What?
Sorry.
She said, y'all don't let me wear blue. That's all I wear now. I'm free. Nah, man.
Can't tell me what to do. I don't live in the APs anymore.
For real.
Even coming up, being we're from Vegas. We know what the APs is, but we on a worldwide thing. To tell people, the APs was luxury apartments.
They were. No, they weren't, but they were.
Coming from San Diego, your parents seen luxury
Oh yeah,
apartments,
That's how they
for sure.
thinking, "Oh, we finna move.
We're
into
gonna
a
be safe.
great neighborhood."
Yeah.
And it's cool to 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, and the apartments were pretty new.
Yeah.
Like they were nice.
They was brand new.
Yeah, they were nice.
But we ain't
Maybe when you
sorry.
guys moved in. When I moved in, I think there were a few years.
Oh yeah, we moved
Yeah.
in
It was
the
brand new.
break.
Yeah. You guys broke them in.
His mom moved. When they moved into the apartment, they was the first people in that apartment.
In our
Oh
apartment.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then we moved in. My mom moved in the following year,
Okay.
and then it went crazy.
And then it went downhill.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So for the people that's not from Vegas, well, coming from San Diego,
Yeah.
parents saying it's a luxury apartments. You get there,
Yeah.
now you experience. I'm quite sure you seen gangbanging in San Diego, but now, like he said, you going through gunshots through the window.
Yeah. Very different. This is very different.
Yeah.
Culture clash. That's all it was.
And it's crazy. It make you numb to so much stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because it's crazy. We still can remember having so much fun over there.
Oh yeah, we would have water balloon fights. There'd be like people playing dice, people, just whatever, like
Playing dice.
I'm sorry.
Playing
Shooting dice. As you guys can tell, I was not a part of these activities.
For real.
But yeah.
What was the light bulb that said I'm going into this is what I want to do with my life?
Wow. there was a lot of light bulbs, I think. But definitely having my daughter. I had my daughter when I was 20, and that's when I really knew that I wanted to work on my trauma. Like, I wanted to work on all the things that had happened to me throughout my life that had brought me to this place where I was angry. I didn't know who I was. I didn't like myself. Like, there was just a lot of things wrong, and I didn't want to pass it off to my daughter. So that's when I started therapy. And about a few years into therapy, that's when I realized this is what I want to do. Like, I want to help other people reach the places that I never thought I could reach within myself. Like, it's not even about, I think, something that people can always see, but it's something that I feel internally, you know?
How much do you think that your childhood trauma affected your relationship prior to you having a daughter?
Oh, very much. Very much. Yeah, very much. I mean, I think, like, when people use the term, like, daddy issues, like, that was me. I had daddy issues. And so, you know, like, I didn't grow up with my dad being, like, a constant part of my life. You know, my mom was a single parent for many years, and we grew up in, like, very skewed relationships with the church and with God, and it was like very cult-like type of environments, very controlling environments.
You used to take me to church.
I tried to take you to church.
A Spanish church, bro.
Yeah, and I would translate the services. And anyone that's watching this that I took you to church, you're welcome. But yes, I took everyone to church with me. But, you know, but at that time, like, God wasn't real for me yet. Like, I didn't really have, like, a real relationship, you know, with my higher power. I didn't have a real relationship with myself. I was very broken. And I think I just hid my brokenness very well. Like, I think that's the only advantage that I've had throughout the years, is that I hid all those things inside of myself. And my way of coping with all of my brokenness was to fix your brokenness. Does that make sense? Like, I was projecting, and I was very codependent. That's the proper word. Is codependency is when our reality becomes dependent on other people's behavior. So, like, if you're not doing good, I'm not doing good, right? So it's like everything that's going on around me is affecting me all the time. So my way of coping with everything was just leeching on to other people and trying to fix them. And, you know, and so you can see how that would become a problem as I became an adult, because now I'm an adult. I'm supposed to be responsible for myself. I'm supposed to be paying my own bills, taking care of myself. But I'm so wrapped up in other men and other people, my friends and all these people, and I'm not taking care of myself. I'm taking care of everyone else. I'm taking care of my family. I'm taking, you know, all these things, but I'm not taking care of me. And so inside, I'm miserable, and I'm, you know, I'm going out of control, but no one knows it. So
when did you hit, like, a breakthrough? Like, when did you hit a breakthrough? You was like, okay, like, I accept who I am, you know, that's behind me, and this is what I'm on now. Or are we about to
it
die?
took a while. It took a while, you know, because you have to think about it from the context of, you have all of these years of damage that have happened to a person. You can't heal all of that damage in one year. Like, oh, I have 20 years of, you know, all these things that have happened to me, and now in 1 year they're going to go away. So I think the way I think about, like, my recovery and coming out of, like, my trauma and all that is it had to happen in layers, you know, one layer at a time. So to this day, I still work on levels of my trauma. But when did I feel like I really had a big breakthrough? I would say maybe around 25. I was about 25. And I'm 33 now for reference. So yeah, maybe around 25, I think I had, like, this really big realization of, like, when I started school and I started wanting to pursue things and started dreaming again and realizing what I wanted to do with life and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. So, like, right now, what's the end goal? Like, what do you want to do? Like, I think we touched up on it a few days ago. You said that you want to, you know, help out inner city kids. What do you think you can do, like, to help, like, for real, like, long term, not like no, you know, momentarily help?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned before, I do have quite a few friends that are already practicing therapists, and so it's kind of like a waiting game right now for me to have my credentials so that I can kind of jump in the game with them and start doing what I want to do. And, you know, I think my main focus is I want to do trauma-informed therapy. That's specifically, I want to work with people who have trauma, which I think that a lot of people have trauma. They're just maybe not aware of it. But not all therapists necessarily focus on being trauma-informed and being able to give that level of care. So some of the different therapies that I want to do is, you know, I'll be a marriage and family therapist, which just means that I'm able to learn about the systems of how, you know, marriage and family and all of that together. Like, it's looking at the wide system of everything. So it doesn't mean that I'm only going to do marriage therapy or I'm only going to work with families. I can work with anyone. So my hope is that once I complete my schooling, then I'll be able to open some type of organization in the near future where I can, you know, be in these areas and actually actively work with the community and kind of really listen and hear, like, what are people needing? What are they lacking? What, you know, when you hear about emotional health, mental health, like, what goes through your mind, and just kind of really connecting to that and being able to help people heal from kind of more of a at-home type of service. Like, I want to be able to go into people's, what they're doing right now.
So it's more convenient for them.
Yeah, like, I don't want to have, like, an office far away where I'm just kind of removed from everything. Like, I want to really be in the neighborhoods, understanding, getting involved, and doing things. So I don't exactly have it all pinned down yet because I'm still in the process of, you know, my education. But I do know exactly the demographic that I want to work with. And I have a lot of friends that work with the human trafficking world. So I know that I'll end up in that as well, just because that's definitely trauma-informed care.
What does that mean?
Human trafficking.
Yeah, I know, that's
deep for you to go there. So it's deep for you to go there because we in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely,
we know it's around the
world.
world.
A big issue. Yeah.
It's a big issue here in
It's
Vegas.
a big issue here in Vegas, so specifically here, sex trafficking, you know, and so I think it's really important for any of us who are working in this field to be informed on, you know, how to spot a sex trafficking victim, you know, how to help a sex trafficking victim. And there are a lot of amazing organizations already in Las Vegas that are doing some really great work. We have a lot of shelters here. We have a lot of things going on already that are actively helping, you know, this issue. So I think in regards to how, like, it would be talked about on the street, like, people on the street don't call it sex trafficking, right?
Thanks.
It's pimping, prostitution, right? Things like that. So, but I think when we talk about it from more of like from the bigger scale, you hear the word sex trafficking, human trafficking. So human trafficking is a big umbrella. It includes, you know, labor trafficking. It includes, like, organ taking and all of that.
Making
So
kids work and all that. So when you get into the sexual, we spoke, we were speaking last week, we spoke on, you know, we know women are victims.
definitely.
And you said you spoke with men who was pimps.
Mm-hmm.
They're, at one point, they was victims too. You kind of
Many
said,
times,
like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's not just,
Yeah.
but the world see it one-sided. The world sees it, this woman is the victim. So going into therapy, do you feel it's a lot of, I guess, quote-unquote pimps that should also get involved in the therapy? Because a lot of them lead a lifestyle because
they be victims too.
Yeah, and they don't leave the lifestyle because they feel like they was a victim. They leave lifestyle either they hoes gave up on them. You know what I'm saying? Like they never see the victim side of it or the the pain that they went through. So should that be a part of therapy for them too? Because you pass that on to your children a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the cycle of victimization, it doesn't end with the woman that's being victimized, and it doesn't start there, right? The root of all of this is evil, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, men, first of all, men can also be trafficked. I just want to make that really clear.
Sure.
And there are a lot of men who are victims of trafficking. And there are even men who are victimized into becoming traffickers, right? Into becoming pimps. Just like women can be victimized into becoming madams or, you know,
Facts.
things like that. So, you know, I think right now it's a really hot trending topic. Like we have hashtag Save Our Children. We have the whole Wayfair scandal that was going around. People think, you know, Wayfair is part of trafficking. It's big in our politicians are talking about it and everything. And I think it's great that this is becoming an issue that people know about on such a large scale. But that also means that there's a lot of misinformation that's happening because, you know, trafficking is not like this deep-seated underbelly that we don't see. We're seeing trafficking happen. We're just not aware that we're seeing it happen. Does that make sense? So, you know, trafficking it's not just something that, you know, it's happening in the tunnels or it's happening in the back of the strip or, you know, it's happening on so many different scales. And so, you know, like my encouragement would be for people who this is something that they're passionate about or this is something that motivates them, they want to get involved, like really get educated, like really do the studies and look at how trafficking really works because it is complex, but it is also in your face. And here in Vegas, especially right now, and you walk on the strip, you will see that happening all over. You will see transactions all over. So
and the pandemic took it to a whole nother level.
Correct.
The pandemic took it to a whole nother level. It's a lot of good-looking women who was having regular jobs that were like, oh, it's bad right now for me.
And it's the reality.
And
it's the reality.
Even for the men, even we get all of them. We get the homosexuals, everyone is involved in this this game. So for you to say that you got a lot of friends within that to do the therapy and to speak to people like that, even with the children, because like I say, it get passed down to the children a lot. Also, something you had touched on early when you had said you knew you had to get yourself help as soon as you had a kid because you knew eventually, you know, your kid. I know you ain't go through that stuff, but I'm saying like you knew you didn't want to pass the wrong energy to your child because now you got a teenager.
Pretty much, she's 12. So we have to. I have a lot of me and my husband both have a lot of great conversations with her, you know, and we try to keep her very aware of the way the world works, and you know, especially for her as a girl, you know, and I don't think I would have been able to provide all that for her if I hadn't dealt with my own trauma and my own insecurities, and you know, and honestly, as she gets older, I realize that I still have so much more left to work on because like she'll pick up on things that I didn't even realize I was still doing or was still going on, and I'm like, wow. So she's just like my little accountability human.
We live in a faster world. We lived fast.
Yeah.
But we live in a faster world now.
Right. Very true.
Even though they don't leave out the house.
Yeah. Because my daughter, my daughter just turned 11. I have a stepdaughter that just turned 15. I have a stepson that's just finna be 18. My daughter at 11 is very aware.
Yeah. Very advanced.
And I just be like, damn, like I'm not saying it wasn't, you know, everyone wasn't aware in our time, but it was harder for us to get information.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At this age, they just stumble across it.
Yeah.
Like we had the same kind of music, but if your parents didn't listen to that music, you didn't hear it.
Right. Very true.
Now it's at your fingertips.
Right.
So if you don't, I don't have to necessarily listen to the music for my daughter to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, once you go on
Absolutely.
TikTok or something like that, where
Suggested.
Yeah.
it's suggested, it's right there.
Yeah.
So they're already hearing the different type of music with hoeing, with sex, with
Yeah.
drug dealing,
Drugs.
gang
Yeah.
banging, kids doing drugs.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, if our parents didn't listen to it, we didn't get none of it.
Fact.
We didn't get none of that.
Yeah.
This time, yeah.
Yeah, coming up in this time, with you going into family, how do you work on that? Because it's not going to slow
You
down.
can't really block it, you know.
You can't block it.
So I think that's why it's important to have conversations with our kids early. And I know that's hard for a lot of people, especially people who grew up in a fast life, because we want to shelter our kids. We want to protect them. We don't want them to know the things we knew, you know, like as much as we can. And so I think that there's a healthy way of talking to our kids about the world that they're going to encounter on the internet, you know, and teach them boundaries early about, you know, valuing themselves and like, hey, like this isn't good for you to see this. Like don't go after these things, you know, and don't watch these things. And explain to them like, I'm not saying it because, you know, to be mean or keep it away from you, but to protect you, you know, and of course, there's only so much we can do, and I understand that.
Kids rebel.
They do. But I think having those conversations early with our kids about, you know, their anatomy and understanding their own bodies, understanding that, you know, physical attraction to the opposite sex or sometimes the same sex, it's normal, it's okay that you're going to feel that way, you know, and kind of normalizing and not over-sexualizing everything.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, and we know this, we were kids
Just
once,
curious.
like they're just curious, you know, and so when we find them and we catch them doing things that they're not supposed to do, for me, it's been really important not to shame my daughter, you know, not to make her feel bad about it, but like normalize it. Like, well, you were looking at that, so obviously you're curious about sex, you're curious about twerking, you're curious, there's been all kind of searches, and I'm like, obviously you're curious about that, so ask me some questions, like let's talk about it. And now that she's 12, she's very uncomfortable having these conversations, so my thing right now has been to buy her books that kind of explain this stuff for me, and I make sure I go through the books myself first, and I just kind of hand them to her, and I'm like, look, if you have questions, go in this book, and this book will answer it for you. Don't go on the internet, on YouTube, and look up whatever. Yeah. So, you know.
See, it's like, with boys, it's different, right? It seems a little different, but with girls, it's scary because, especially now that I'm older, I hear how many women has been taken advantage of.
Yeah.
This happens every day, from worried about what someone's going to think about you, or I have to dress a certain way if I'm not wearing Gucci. Whatever it is, people are being used and manipulated to do certain things. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the scariest part for me having my daughter. It's like, I know how creepy some people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you'll post a picture of your daughter. I remember when my daughter was a little bitty baby, right? Like probably like 6 or 7 months. I post a picture of her, and she just on my chest or whatever. She don't got a shirt on, and people like, hey man, you know, put a shirt on her. It's these creeps out here. You don't think like that.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Until somebody point that up, then you like, oh damn, well you're right. There is some creepy motherfuckers in the world. You know what I mean?
It's true.
And that's the scariest part. So how do you feel, like, especially with you being a woman, and you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure you know people that have been through whatever. Like, when you're dealing with your daughter, like, do that make you keep an eye on them? Because people get kidnapped. Like, I think they just tried to kidnap, like, Joe Montana's grandchild or something the other day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, really walked inside his house and tried
Snatched
to
the
take
baby
it,
and left.
snatch the baby. Like, that's how crazy the world is. You know? And like you said, with people being sex trafficked and all this is happening, like,
Yeah.
how
My
do
daughter
you
has pepper spray
spray.
already. My husband got her pepper spray. We definitely taught her how to use that. And I think just a big thing like that we talked to her about is just you know, if somebody approaches you that you don't know, you're not obligated to talk to them. You're not don't give them any personal information. It seems obvious, like kids should know that, but they don't know that, and we need to tell them. Like, we set boundaries for our kids. So, you know, I let her know, like, it's okay for you to be rude to an adult if you're uncomfortable, if, you know, they're approaching you and you don't like it, like, let me know, you know, who these people are, etc. Obviously, if, like, somebody was, like, sneak attack on her, I don't know how to really prepare her for that, per se. But I think just, like, small things that I can teach her is, you know, to be able to speak up for herself, to be able to say, no, stop, I don't like that, you know, whatever it is. And just teaching her to assert herself, because I think a big thing that I feel like women are not taught from a young age is that you're allowed to say no, you're allowed to assert yourself. And, you know, there's a big conversation in the world right now about consent, you know, and so that's a conversation that I've started with my daughter already at this age is you have a right to say no at any time, you know, and that's with somebody you're interested in and with somebody that shouldn't be in your space, you know. So I think that's really important. I think the same is true with boys. I don't like leaving boys out of the conversation because just as many boys are victimized as girls, and we just don't talk about it.
It's crazy you said that as far as your daughter. I just had a conversation with my daughter, similar, about being mean and being polite, but it wasn't really just stranger conversation.
Yeah.
I told her if you feel family is making you uncomfortable, let me know.
Right, exactly.
Friends is making you uncomfortable, let me know. It wasn't the strangers. I think my daughter kind of got the concept of strangers. Like, my daughter and strangers, I don't feel like she's going to give them a hard time anyway. Like, she's necessary. She's already there. But, yeah, my conversation was more so family, friends.
Yeah.
Because right now at this age, the people that you encounter most of the time is going to be around me or around your mom. You're not going to just run across too many, you know, strangers too much. Like, my daughter don't have the freedom that I had at 11, even with school. Like, without the pandemic shit, we walked to school.
Right. Yeah.
I picked my daughter up.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
took her to school.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. Like,
Same.
we didn't have that walk freedom. And there was plenty of girls that walked with us, like little girls that walked with us. You know, my daughter don't have that walk freedom really too much. Like, nah, I'll be there when you get out of school, or your mom will be there when you get out of school. Somebody's going to be there when you get out of school. So the stranger conversation don't really it's there. But I'm more so of who you're around on a regular. Yeah. Because it happens more inside the families. And a lot of the predators or whatever that's inside of your family is more so like, oh, that's just Uncle such and such. You know, like you just exactly. You kind of normalize their bullshit.
I was about to say that,
yeah. Like, oh, that's just how he is. You know what I'm saying? And that's not cool. Like, I don't want to kill Uncle such and such for my kids.
Yeah.
So let me know if this person is bad around you. So how do them type of conversations come in? We spoke. You said what you had on. You said on another podcast was you was a victim.
Correct.
So how is that? Is that a conversation with your daughter yet?
Yeah. Actually, that conversation has already come up, especially because I do share my story openly, because I feel like as someone who has worked past a lot of that trauma from my childhood, that I was sexually abused as a child, I want to give other people who are struggling a voice, or give them, space to be able to say, yeah, that happened to me too, or, I should go to therapy to deal with that, et cetera. So I've already, had like a kid-friendly conversation with my daughter about, my experience and what I've been through, because it is important for her to understand that these are realities of the world, and, that she's not exempt from that, and that's why we teach her tools like we have been, about how to protect herself, how to know what's appropriate and inappropriate touching, what consent is, and all these things. So it all ties in together, and so I feel like when I'm able to share with my daughter little bits and pieces of my life, one, it brings us closer, and two, it also lets her see that, like, I'm human, you know, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not on this pedestal or any, you know, and it makes it, like, a lot more relatable, I think. And so, yeah, that's already come up with her for sure. Yeah.
And you gotta help them realize, like what you saying, that people gotta realize, like, it's not your fault. I think that's what a lot of people
definitely
fuck up at. Like, people will take a situation like that and be like, oh, well, it was my fault. Or, like, I know people that make excuses for her. Like, you'll see a woman say, or you'll hear a guy or somebody will say, oh, well, she shouldn't have had this on. She shouldn't have been wearing this and that. It's like, bro, I could come outside and with tissue covering my nipples. Like, you should be able to do whatever you want to do without somebody touching you. Because as a man, I don't want nobody to touch me. You know what I mean? I don't care if I'm fully dressed in a fire marshal uniform. You know what I mean? Don't nobody grab me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. It ain't your fault. So you shouldn't feel shame, even though people do.
Yeah,
you shouldn't feel
sure.
ashamed about somebody else being a creep. That's all I wanted to say.
Because this has been a conversation with our family a lot, because our generation was all boys.
Yeah.
Then right after us, it was girl. Like, all of we all got nieces. Like, we got more nieces than nephews.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, early it was, you know, my niece might be wearing this skirt. Why is she wearing that skirt? And I'm like, what's the issue? So then, having daughters, kind of made me to understand, like, I gotta kind of normalize this, because with being all boys, we don't care. Like, we was all like, it's the first to have sex in this group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So whoever gets on first.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's protect the girl. Boy, do what you want with your thing.
Yeah, that's how it was. Right?
We don't get taught. We don't get taught no different.
Right. But I think the error in that is that we don't empower young girls. And so young girls grow up with the message of abstinence, you know, keep it in your pants. The longer you can keep it in your pants, the more valuable you are. And that's definitely like a value system that I grew up with. And and this might be like a little very transparent, but like when I was growing up, like my virginity was like a prize token, you know, like it was like whoever got my virginity, it was like this huge deal, you know, and it was, you know, and the longer that I could hold on to that, the more valuable it made me. At least that was the message that I received. And when I lost my virginity, I felt like I diminished in value. Like, I was no longer as valuable as I once was, because now I'm tainted, you know? Like,
I like taking that call off the lot.
Yeah, and I think that the same message kind of happens, too, when, at least for me, like, when young girls are abused, like, they feel tainted, you know? Like, someone already took a piece of that innocence that you had. And so, you know, it's a lot of... I think that's why when we are survivors, it's important to do some therapy work, because from a young age, that sense of identity, that sense of value, it's robbed from you, you know? And there is a lot of carried shame.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, a woman, like, being held so high because of this, and once they do it, it's like you're at the bottom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
I mean, that I definitely think that was very much the culture of, you know, like when I was growing up and things like that. And, you know, it you know, over the years as I got older and the more partners that I had, you know, I definitely felt that diminish of value. And that was a big part of something that I had to work through in therapy was, you know, my value is not determined on how many people I've had sex with or haven't had sex with, and things like that. You know, my value comes from me, from within. And it has nothing to do with who I'm with or what kind of person I am, etc. You know, it's bigger than that.
That's an important message to pass on to the women. Like bro was just saying, with guys, it's the complete opposite. The more valuable. The more value. I know early, before my daughter was born, I wanted a girl first. I wanted my first child to be a girl, because I feel like a boy would only corrupt me more.
Oh, okay.
Like, I wouldn't have felt like I needed to I'm like, oh, it's a little boy. Even if I go to prison, whatever, he'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He a little boy. He gonna be strong enough. He gonna deal with it. So I wanted a girl first. With having my daughter first, I remember before she was even born, I remember telling people like people like, what if your daughter became this, or what if your daughter became this? I'm like, so, like, I don't care. Like, she could be whatever. My mom them accepted me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm around here. I'm in my mom's house with guns, and I got niggas in here, and I'm selling drugs, and I'm doing everything that as her son that she didn't want her son to do. So I'd be a fool not to accept my daughter or whatever she choose. And I just stay with that mind frame the whole time. Like we just had a major conversation the other day, and I was telling her older brother, the things you do when you have your little girlfriend come over, is it okay for your little sister to do that? And he instantly was like, hell no, I'm gonna beat him up. I said, and then what? Like, you beat him up, he go, now he can't whoop you, but he can whoop your sister. So every time you're alone with your sister, you can do what he want to do because she's in love. She ain't gonna tell you. So then what? So I have to bring him to that level ground all the time. And that was hard for me to get to that level ground, but just by having girls, I had to level myself out. Like, would I accept this for my daughter? Would I accept this? You only have a girl.
Yeah, I only have one daughter.
Is conversations group, or is it sometime like
Separate.
Like you telling your husband, like, you
Go do this part. Yeah,
need to go in there and talk to her? Or is it like we need to sit down?
I think definitely my daughter has conversations independently from me with her father.
Yeah.
They have a very close relationship. I mean, we're a small family. It's the three of us. And I'm very happy with it. You know, I think it's great. She definitely gets our undivided attention all the time. So she's like, she's a great kid. But, she's very close to her dad. So there's conversations that she'll have like these really elaborate analytical conversations with her dad, and then there's other things that she'll feel more comfortable talking about with me, and I think a lot of that can be like more womanly stuff with me, or like fashion, or how does this look, or maybe it'll be like emotions as she's feeling and things like that. But I think that when we address things, like if we're addressing, her use on on the internet and things like that, we address it as a unit. Like, we come together and we talk to her as parents. And that process within itself of becoming parents and becoming a unit and getting on the same page, because we grew up differently, and we had some different belief systems, and so we've had to kind of try to find that middle ground of like, okay, well, I don't agree with you on this part, but I do agree with you on this part. And so it takes a lot of work behind the scenes, like before we talk to my daughter, of like us trying to get on the same page.
Facts. Yeah.
And we're not always on the same page, to be 100% honest.
Can't disagree in front of our kid.
Yeah, and and that happens sometimes, and then we deal with it. So, but yeah, we try for the most part to make every conversation for the both of us. So like when we talk to her about sex and her body and all that, my husband is present and he's part of the conversation, and he's giving his input. He's saying, this is, I know how men think, I know that, and he brings in his part, and I appreciate that, because I didn't grow up with my father sharing all that with me, so I think that she has a huge advantage, because she has her dad talking to her about these things.
And that's all you can do, man. You just got to give your kids the best shot. Give them the most information you can give them. I want to touch on that emotion thing we talked about earlier, because I was telling you, like, until recently, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't accept my emotions as a man. You know what I mean? Because I was always taught to like suppress them. You know what I mean? Like, don't feel a certain way. I never forget, I was in the car one day riding. I was listening to some song. I think it was by Genuine, one of his songs or whatever. And my mom heard me listening to it, and she was like, you better not be in no motherfucking love or nothing, you feel me? Like, I don't know exactly her words, but to me it was like, I'm like, hell no. And in my mind it was like, damn, that was frowned upon. You know what I mean? as a kid, you like whatever your parents say is kind of like gospel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
You're kind of hanging on to it a little bit more than you noticed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you hear about guys, whether they whooping women or tripping, nowadays guys are way more emotional. Like especially like with social media and things, right? So how do you feel a man should handle his emotions?
So this is actually how I got started doing emotional health classes. When I first started teaching emotional health, I got to do it a little bit within the church sphere, and then I graduated into doing it with a nonprofit organization where I was teaching it within the jail and within the population of people getting out of prison. So the majority of the people that I worked with were men. So I had to really learn how to translate emotional health in a way that men could understand it. So men and women both experience emotions equally. Okay, I just want to put that out there. We experience emotions equally,
Right.
but we don't experience them the same way. Right? So where a woman is allowed to experience her emotions outwardly. Like if I'm upset, I can visibly show that I'm upset. If I'm sad, I can cry. If I'm, etc. Right? So a man typically doesn't grow up in a context where that's going to be allowed, right? You see little boys cry, hey, stop crying, why are you being a bitch,
Yeah, you smack your lips.
Yeah, all of that, right? And so from a very young age, that's put into boys' minds is we don't show our emotions. We have emotions. Men have a shit ton of emotions, okay, at all times, just like women do. We're the same in that way. It's just that we're not allowing men to express their emotions in the same way that women do. Do I think that men should go around crying and, etc.? No, I mean, I know that there's an expectation there from men. I think a healthy way, though, especially in the context of relationship, and I'm going to use that as an example. When we're in relationship with men as women, we have to give men permission to be sensitive, to express their emotion, to say, I'm not okay, I'm hurt, this is not okay for me. We have to allow men to cry.
And I'll throw it back in their face in 2 days.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, if you cry in front of a girl, I don't know. Like, say a dude, like, this out of text though, but like, say your husband or something. You bump into a dude at Walmart. You tell your husband and his emotion decides to cry. It'll fuck it up for y'all forever. You know what I'm saying?
You seen your ex at Walmart?
You know what I'm saying? It'll be messed up. So I understand, like, it got to be like that. But for a man, there's so much pressure because a woman, I always get this example. If you was out on some freak shit, some weird stuff happened, you got robbed and some shit happened to you, right? Like when dudes whooped your ass or did some freaky shit to you.
Yep.
If you go back home and you tell your girl, the next argument, she's gonna bring it up. What about them dudes you came back here, your butt bleeding? You feel what I'm saying? A dude would never do that. If certain things happen to a woman, a dude would never bring it up. I hope not. For real though, bros, you can't do that. If you got knocked out, right? If you gonna go run to your girl and be like, look, baby, I just got knocked out. Hell nah.
Yeah.
You gonna wake up, you gonna be like, damn, I hope nobody see. You gonna get up, you gonna push. You feel me? A woman gonna come home like,
okay.
Look, the girl just slapped the shit
That's
out
a
of her.
really extreme example, but I understand what you're saying. So here's the thing, like I'm gonna put it in the context of like how I would teach this. So what I would say is, one, men need to learn who they are, right? They need to bring their self-esteem on board, their worth on board. Like, I need to know who I am. I need to have my own identity outside of any relationship that I'm in, right? And then second is something that I teach is like boundaries, right? And so kind of an example that my therapist gave me the other day, and I really liked it, was like a candle, right? So here, I'm going to use this right here. So like, let's say this was a candle. So this candle, inside there's wick, right? The wick is your self-esteem, your worth, right? Your value. The stuff inside that burns, the wax, there you go. That is your reality. That's your reality when I'm teaching it. That's your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, your choices, your limits, okay? All of that is contained by your boundaries. So the outside, this dish, is containing that reality and containing that self-esteem. Okay. So this is the same for men and women, but we have to learn this process of protecting our self-esteem and our value, because I think a lot of times when we're fighting and when we're disagreeing and when we're running into these situations where somebody's throwing something back in your face, making you feel bad, etc., really what we're fighting about is our value. I feel like you're trying to diminish my value right now because I am genuinely hurt. This was genuinely something traumatic for me, and you're downplaying it. You're making it seem like it wasn't a big deal. Oh, and now you're throwing it in my face. That's so hurtful. It's a betrayal. You know, it's like a betrayal. It's a betrayal of trust, and it's a betrayal of I don't have good boundaries. I don't know how to protect myself in this scenario where you're saying something awful to me. Wow. And so, like, a boundary in that situation that you just brought up would be like, well, just because I went through this traumatic event doesn't diminish my value. It doesn't make me less of a person, right? Mm-hmm. And if this girl wants to bring that up and that's who she wants to be, that says something about her, not about me. That's the boundary. I'm not going to allow that to impact how I feel about myself and my reality that this was a traumatic event that I went through and it was hard for me.
So I shouldn't think in my head, I need to kill her so she don't tell nobody my butt was bleeding when I came home.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because that's what a man is thinking.
Yeah, like, definitely. I understand.
You have to go.
I just want to say, as a woman,
I can't just walk out of this situation if you know my butt was bleeding. I can't just.
Well, because you were vulnerable.
Too much.
Well, right.
Too much, baby.
And that's the thing. When we're in relationship, we're being vulnerable with the people that we're with. Those are the people we're most vulnerable with. They know the most about us.
That's how you create a serial killer.
That's that creates trust.
See the movie Monster when the chick gets to killing everybody? That's how you create a serial killer.
Yeah.
There's a lot that creates a serial killer, but we won't get into that. But yes, definitely. Definitely. I think that, when we don't know how to take care of ourselves in relationship and we don't understand that just because we're together doesn't mean that we're the same person. Like, we become kind of like enmeshed.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, what you do, how you feel, what you got going on, that becomes my entire world, my entire focus. And when we operate that way, that's very dysfunctional, and it doesn't create space for people to be their own, it becomes like this, like I said. And so, that's been a lot of my focus over the past few years, is just teaching people, like, how to have healthy relationships. Like, how do you coexist in a relationship and still be an individual, and still maintain your own sense of worth and identity and continue to share all these vulnerable pieces of your life. Your day-to-day doings are vulnerable. Yeah. Like, everyone doesn't know that about you. Everybody doesn't know how you look when you wake up in the morning. Everybody doesn't know, how your breath smells in the morning, like, etc. Like, these are all vulnerabilities that, we're experiencing. And so when we're in relationship with people, we expect them to, there's like this expectation that they're going to respect that privacy and that, all of that. And so that's where boundaries come in, like, hey, babe, it's not okay for you to bring up this incident when we're fighting. Yeah, because it's hurtful. And it's okay to admit that. That's hurtful. Don't bring that up. That is on our do not bring up list, right? And so, like, there's something called fair fighting, right? And so, like, when
women do not fight fair.
Okay, neither do men, but I just want to make that really clear. But we have to learn a new language. That's really what we're saying. We need to learn a new language. We have to learn how to be in relationship and learn how to value one another and uplift one another and make each other better and not bring each other down. And in order to do that, as individuals, we have to be willing to work on our shit. Like, we all come in with baggage in any relationship. You come in with baggage. And so we have to be willing to go, okay, this is my baggage. This is where I struggle. This is what I tend to do. I'm aware of that. Let me know if I'm doing that so I can stop doing it. It starts with, like, me being vulnerable with my spouse and saying, look, I know that I struggle. I know that I tend to yell a lot, and I do this and I do that. So when I do that, you know, lovingly point it out to me, you know, and I'm going to vow to you that I'm going to stop doing that, you know. And so I keep myself accountable in that way of setting rules up for when we do fight. Hey, when we fight, we're not going to hit below the belt. You know, we're not going to say things about each other that we shouldn't say.
It's like stepping in a boxing ring.
Right,
This
exactly.
What we not doing. This
See,
what we
it
not
seemed
doing.
like
Exactly.
y'all arguments seem like he go to sleep not good at night. My arguments seem
Sometimes.
like I gotta sleep in another room. You know what I mean? With the
no,
door
that's
locked.
not a thing.
I mean, but it's so rare. Like you said, we go into every relationship with baggage. It's so rare we walk in and unpack.
Right, of course, because we want to pretend like that baggage doesn't exist, because it's painful. You had a past before me. What?
It takes so
You know?
it takes so long to start unpacking. It takes years
Gotta trust
sometimes.
people, man.
It takes
Correct. But it's also part of growing up.
And so many relationships don't work that you kind of assume it's not gonna work. So you kind of like be 1 foot in, 1 foot out until you know it's
Like
real.
sabotage. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Before we wrap up, so you spoke a lot about you know, knowing your reality, you know, reality and stuff like that. Coming up in us for Vegas, coming up in a city where we live in kind of a false reality. Like they tell us it's something, and it's not.
Reality is individual. Like, all of our realities are our own. Like, my reality is not going to be the same as yours,
Facts.
etc. Right? We all have different perspectives. We all have different ways that we live life and we experience it. So, you know, I think that from, like, the big picture of things, like in Vegas, I think the way things are in Vegas compared to the rest of the country is very different. We live a very different reality than other people. And I kind of ran into this. I went to DC, and, like, you can't buy alcohol after 8 o'clock.
What's that
and
about, huh?
you can't buy it in a grocery store. And I don't know, like, that's their reality. Like,
Yeah,
they can't do that, and they have to figure it out. And we can go right now, right here, walk to the corner store and get whatever we want whenever we want it.
That's what I'm
Most of them
saying.
never had it.
We
Most
come-
of them never had it though.
We
Yeah.
come up in a false reality.
Yeah,
Like, we come up in
when
a
you
false
leave
reality.
Vegas, if you grew up in Vegas and then you leave Vegas, you're in for, like, a rough ride with, like, the rest of the country, because Vegas is a very unique city, you know, and it's still developing, growing, and changing. So in that regard, you know, I think, you know, we have our own kind of, you know, world here in Vegas. But in a more personal aspect, like for me, you know, with my reality, that's something that I continue to grow in. Like, as I grow as a woman, as I grow as a mother, as a wife, my reality changes, you know? For me, accepting those changes and accepting my husband's reality, accepting my daughter's reality, and people that I'm in relationship with is part of what cultivates healthy relationship, is being able to accept that.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming out. You know,
Yes.
you blessed our show. This is a brand new, like, way we taking it, you know. But it's just that lately, the way my brain work, I've been real curious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm, like, actually doing homework on myself just to figure out why I act and behave and think the way I think, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Even
That's
if I
awesome.
don't act on a lot of things, I still think them. And that shit is draining at times, you know. But thank you for coming out, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Blessing Pilot Talk about Tizzle. I
Yes.
definitely appreciate it. You know, and shout out to your husband, your daughter, your mom, family, sisters, man. Tell them all I said hi, man, and tune in. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
And as soon as you get all your information, if you got anything as far as business wise, you want someone to follow you,
Yeah.
let them know where to
them
follow you business wise. If you don't have that yet, as soon as
Not
you get your
yet.
credentials, come back so we can let people know your credentials so
Yeah.
they can find you, so they can
Definitely.
get the sessions that they need.
Yeah.
We for sure appreciate you.
Yeah. Well,
crazy how childhood friends turn to all
I'm really
this.
proud of you guys. Like, I think this is really amazing, and
Thank you.
I was super, like, honored to be asked to be here. And
Oh man.
you know, it's really cool seeing people, you know, that you grow up with, like, change so much and grow. And
The biggest thing about our platform as far as Code 7 and Power Talk about Tizzle was to show the diversity of what we grew up around and who we grew up around. Like, people think me and bro is just gang members. Like, they don't think we grew up around. We have friends as police officers, we have friends as realtors, we have friends as therapists, we have friends that Vegas is a diverse city.
Yeah, for real. You're around everything.
And it's to show the world, like, listen, there's a lot around here. So that was a big thing about. So you coming on is major for people to see, like, listen, this is the kind of people we grew up with.
Facts.
Yeah.
It's not, everyone is not crazy. Everyone is not this. Yeah. And we never pushed a lifestyle on anyone.
True. Yeah.
We always sheltered.
Definitely.
The people who we fight need to be sheltered. Like, you don't need to be around this.
Yeah, definitely.
She was talking about it the other day, like, man, bro, I used to tell people, like leave her the fuck alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't fucking, like, you know what I'm saying? Because I know her mom was over there by herself, and, you know, it's like, you just, certain people in your neighborhood, you gain respect for, you know what I mean? And our foundation over there was so much love and respect. No matter what we did in our other life, we never let disrespect. Like, you know, I'm not disrespectful at all. Like, I've never started an issue I've ever had in my life. You know what I'm saying? I just be showing up at the end. You know, for real. I just show up at the end. I don't disrespect. Brother. I'm not cussing at nobody and none of that. And it's cool to show, like you said, that diversity. You know what I mean? We was around some great people and people that pushed us. You know, like. Everybody is connected, and everybody had a purpose over there, and it's just good to experience this.
So, Power Talk about Tizzle is going to be a crazy mental development, as y'all can see, man.
Exciting.
This is the next wave for Power Talk about Tizzle.
Psychology. Go get y'all a psychiatrist, man. For real, go try it. It can't hurt, man. For real, you got the issues with yourself, go check it out, man.
Go see them.
Power Talk by Tizzle, Code 7. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all be blessed.
Share, subscribe to the channel, YouTube, KODE. If you here, you already know. SE number 7EN. We out of here, man. Peace.
Hey, you new here? I ain't got that much time. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button and shit. Here, wherever it said, tune in. Code 7. Power Talk by Tizzle.